say good morning to everybody. Today is a day when I would have to travel to and from the city where I work for about 3 hours altogether, buses, trains, and a walking. And I only have 90 minutes worth of classes to actually teach. That's why I'm teaching from home today. I've been cleared to do so. I hope all of you students are sitting either together somewhere at the school or perhaps at home. Be nice if you're at home as well. Some of you live close to the school and you can walk to the school for your other classes. This will happen maybe once, maybe twice a month. And you are a fantastic group to work this way because you're very disciplined. I wouldn't even be surprised if you weren't in your classroom with your computer plugged in, watching this on a big screen and participating in a chat. It's very important that you type your answers in chat, even if other people have typed your answer. Why is that? Well, I keep the chat log for me, not for the whole world to see, but for me. And I look at it after I have taught the class to see how people participated. I know that some of you leave this on in the background while you do something else and you just listen to what I'm saying and you take it in. And that's good. But guess what's better? If you participate, you have to participate so I can mark you present to the class. So we've been talking about different English speaking countries. I want you to type in the chat right now the countries that we discussed yesterday in class. Which countries did we discuss in class yesterday? Go ahead. Even if your friend has already typed it in, type in as well so I can see that you're participating. As usual, this is going to come on with a delay. So, how do I put this? This is not like a class that I taught in 2020, and then all of a sudden I'm just saying, oh, I'm just going to have them watch this video. That's not what I'm doing. I woke up this morning on the 12th of September. I have the books with me. This one that's yours, and I also have Vega Ann's book with me. And I prepared the class and I'm teaching it today. Today's the 12th of September. Yesterday and the day before, I didn't talk about it because so much happened in our classes, but we should have done a minute of silence for 9/11. And also, we were supposed to discuss the debate, but somehow, because there was so much happening and the two groups were together in a class, in a classroom, I ended up not saying anything. I'd like some of you to think about the impact of, and I say some of you because I think, let us just put it this way, you are in your second year, right? Which is 11th grade. This would be the third year for high schoolers in the USA because the system is different. High school in the USA is ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, 4 years of high school. The system in Norway is that high school is 11th, 12th, 13th, and sometimes, bless me and let me not get sick, and sometimes the fourth year of high school, which is the 14th year. We had, I think last year, some students that did sports, right? They were getting a degree, a minor degree in sports, a high school degree in sports. So they studied 4 years. So in the 12th grade, you are in your second year of high school. So you have studied to some extent the culture of Great Britain, the United Kingdom, the British Isles as a whole, and you studied English speaking countries. You studied all the circles of English, and you have become aware last year in your first year of high school, in your 11th grade, you studied a lot about the United States, the American dream, the politics. We talked a lot about the American dream in the sense of how it's been changing, and I interviewed quite a few people about this. So you know how important the elections are, and you know how the impact of a debate in what's happening in the world right now will will be. So I want you to tell me, please type in chat your own feelings and thoughts. And yes, if we have a Swiftie in the room, you're totally allowed to talk about how Taylor Swift is endorsing Kamala Harris and how you think that will impact things. The debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris just happened. A lot of people believe that she won. Others don't think she did anything special at all. I want you to please type in chat your thoughts about how you think the debate will impact the elections. Go. What is the function? Why do the candidates have to debate each other? This year, during the debate, there was a new, I want to say new, and I hope I'm not wrong about it, but it's fairly new because I know that when they had debates in the 70s and 80s, they did not have the internet. Fact checking, AI was far from existing, but this year they had fact checkers on site every time a candidate said something that wasn't true. What do you think about that? Go. I want to see everyone typing. I fully understand that some people, like I said, they listen and they take in the information, and I think it's fantastic, but you have to type in chat. Even if you type a short sentence, ever so often throughout our session, which will be between 38 and 45 minutes. I'll allot the last 45 minutes to a Teams call where you can come in and talk to me while you do your exercises, the written part of the exercises. You also have to work on the project, which is our own debate that we'll have. Somebody's going to play Donald Trump, somebody's going to play Kamala Harris, someone is going to play Tim Walz, someone's going to play JD Vance, and some of you will be mediators, reporters, right? I'm looking forward to that. I feel like it will give you a very clear understanding of things and you will actively work with a topic. Please type in chat. Like I said, this is being broadcast with a delay, but I'm in chat actively communicating with you. And after this, you will be working with your written assignments, and I'll be sitting on Teams, 100% available. So you will have 90 minutes of my full attention on one way or another. I want you to please type in chat if you can remember. Now I'm going to go a little into the issues that we talked about this week. Type in chat if you remember. I have the book with me, but I'm hoping that you're not looking in the book for the answers, that you're just saying it off the top of your head. Please tell me the name of at least 3 cities in New Zealand. It's very important that you don't mix Australia with New Zealand. Last year, you had the opportunity to interview somebody from Australia, and you asked fantastic questions, by the way. And I showed you an interview that I did with Miss New Zealand 2021, who was one of the pageant contestants in a pageant that I was in, Sophie Collins. Shout out to Sophie. If you haven't if you haven't had a chance to dig into your memory to remember what I'm talking about, all the interviews are still available on this channel. So you should never blend these two together. So this is being broadcast with a delay, but I'm in the chat typing with you. So yesterday, one of you mentioned Dunedin, right? We talked about Christchurch. We talked about Queenstown. We talked a little bit about Auckland. And we talked about Wellington. Can you tell me one thing about Queenstown? I know that these facts may seem like, oh, why do we have to know this? When you are interviewed for your exam in May next year, there is a likelihood that you might be pulled to take the oral exam in English. They will ask you about English speaking countries. They will ask you about the circles of English. They will ask you about how English spread all over the world, about the British Empire, and you should know something about the different countries that we studied. And I often talk about having lived in New Zealand, having lived in the United States, having lived in Australia, And this is not by any means by like, oh, I've been to so many countries, because I really haven't been to so many. But I've had a very good experience in English speaking countries. Oh, why do you only want to go to English speaking countries? Somebody said that in your class the other day. I thought it would be like self-explanatory, but then I thought about it. Norwegians and everyone who grows up in the culture of Norway, you have a beautiful culture of going to other countries and seeing beautiful places all over the world, especially in Europe. So it is not uncommon for a Norwegian to just, in the summer, pick up their families and just go to the Ukraine. Not so much now, go to Croatia, go to Spain, go to even to the US. But I feel like Norwegians are very open to going to a country where English is not the language, but still using English to communicate as a. I want to see the two words in chat, and I want to see the two words associated with what I just said. I want to see everybody type in chat. When Norwegians travel to, let us just say, Spain, and they happen to be taking German in high school instead of Spanish, they will use English to communicate. Even some of the kids who are taking Spanish will use English to communicate because they might have a more, how do I put it? They might have a broader amount of vocabulary words that they can use. And they use English as a two words. First, okay, I'll give you the first letter of the first word, L. And I want to see everyone's name in chat. You have to understand that I have full understanding and I have the full shebang when it comes to knowing that people cannot sit still and do the same thing for more than a few minutes at a time. Shebang's probably not a good word. Well, it is a good word, the whole shebang, but just not for academic English. So you can say it in a conversation or in a TED talk even, but you can't write it in a paper, in a term paper. So I will give you a few minutes of screen time with me here where you can see me and communicate with me with writing. And I'll also give you time to write by yourselves. Do not use AI or ChatGPT. We have, you don't understand how far we've come. As soon as you hand it in, before we can start wasting our time correcting an AI paper, we can already see that it was 95% written by AI. So please don't use AI. I would rather see one paragraph from you and give you a grade based off of that than seeing that it was done by AI, because you are going to be issued reprimands for using AI. So please, whatever you do, write the papers yourselves. You don't have to write a paper today, but you will have to answer some questions in written form. Please type in chat what you know. Now I'm just doing a whole remember the time kind of session about what we talked about yesterday. Please, let's talk about Nigeria. Nigeria was the next country. This text that you read yesterday about Nigeria, one of you did a beautiful presentation on the spot, by the way. Just read it and did a presentation. Fantastic work. Please tell me, how did English, how did English come to Nigeria? Please tell me how English came to Nigeria. Pay attention to the next question. Remember, I want everyone to type. Let us just say if, and I'm going to use fictitious names because this is on a channel where I'm not a big YouTuber or anything. I have 500,000 views in 18 years. So what Nikocado Avocado gets in a half hour is in one video is what I have as a collective of all my videos in 18 years. So I'm not trying to be a big YouTuber or anything. But what happens is sometimes the odd person can come in here and watch this, and I want to protect the identity of everyone that I teach. That's why a lot of my videos become unlisted, and that's why I hide the chat log from the public in most cases. So I'm going to use fake names, fictitious names. If Ola Peter typed his answer, Jan Erik should also type his answer, even if it's the same answer. I'm not going to think, hey, he copied. I'm just going to think everyone's answering, right? So please answer. We're talking about Nigeria. Name one type of English originated in Nigeria. Starts with letter P as in Pollyanna. Those of you who said Pidgin English, you are correct. As a person of color, and I try not to overdo it when I talk about this, but it's, come on, you know, you can see how it would be a part of my existence. As a person of color, there is sometimes the expectation from people who don't know me. They just look at me and they expect me to sound a certain way. We talked about African American vernacular English before, sometimes called Ebonics, sometimes called Black English. I don't like calling it those two last ones that I said, the latter ones. I refer to it as African American Vernacular English. So they expect me to use it, right? Why don't I use it? I don't use it because I didn't learn it growing up. I feel like it would be unnatural for me to use it. More and more, African American Vernacular English is becoming accepted into the realm of academics too. You can use that type of English and be educated and sophisticated. That's just part of your culture. The same when I talk about Pidgin English. And yesterday, one of you in your presentation talked about Pidgin English, how it used to be frowned upon almost if you use that language. But nowadays it's accepted, widely accepted. Next country, South Africa. Yesterday, one of you also did a summary about the text. I want you to tell me the name of a very important political figure from South Africa. Let us just put it this way, one of the most important political figures to ever come from South Africa. What was his name? Those of you who wrote Nelson Mandela, you are correct. Absolutely correct. Nelson Mandela was the first black president of South Africa. He was incarcerated for more than 2 decades. And when you think about it, he dedicated his life to activism against one aspect of the politics and the social dynamics of South Africa. What was he fighting against? Starts with letter A. Type in chat. Remember, if Ida typed it, doesn't mean that Ingrid shouldn't also type it. You can all type. I just want to see that everyone's typing. And even if, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just saying, what if you copy the answer of the other person? You're still learning through the process. You're still listening, reading, and writing. So three of the four, some people think five, abilities of the language are being used here. Please type. Apartheid is right. And yesterday, one of you did a presentation about it. When we do those presentations on the spot like that, I can see the potential in all of you. You all did an excellent job with different characteristics. I can praise somebody for their pronunciation and cadence and fluency, also content and details. I can also praise someone for knowing exactly what to bring forth in their presentation, for using the correct information. I can praise someone for having beautiful pronunciation as well as perhaps not saying too much, but saying enough that they get the audience to learn what we were all supposed to learn. South Africa, the next country, last but not least, India. Let's talk about India. True or false? English is an official language, not unofficial, but an official language in India. True or false? Please type. Remember, even if Guru has typed, doesn't mean that Metamari is not going to type as well. Is English, think about English as a first language in many countries where the countries are in the inner circle, like New Zealand, Canada, Australia, right? The United States, all of the countries in the British Isles. Just so you know, when I say that a country is part of the British Isles, I'm not saying they're owned by the British. I'm just saying that geographically, when you look at a map, they are in what is called the British Isles. We are fully aware that Ireland is independent and not a part of the United Kingdom in a sense that they're not economically or politically involved with these other countries. But geographically on the map, they're right there in the British Isles. So those countries are English speaking countries in the inner circle. How about India? India. Could we say that India is in the inner circle? Yes or no, and why not? Type. Please explain why you gave that answer. If you said yes, India is in the inner circle, why'd you say that, right? And if you say no, it is not, it is in, and then you say which circle they're in, and tell me why you said that. Yesterday, we talked about the Indian dialect and accent. We discussed the varieties of English, right? I think it's very important for you to understand the difference between dialect, accent, and voice. Let me explain why I'm saying this. I know that a lot of people are like, well, we know the difference. Some people use dialect and accent interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. An accent is how you pronounce the words, what kind of cadence you use, the musicality of the language when it comes out of your mouth, how you pronounce the words separately or in a cluster with others, the pronunciation. When you think of accent, think music, sounds, right? Dialect. A dialect may also include a different accent, but first and foremost, for something to be considered a dialect, there must be variations of vocabulary in it. So that's the difference. An accent, just the music, just how you pronounce the words. A dialect is using different words, and sometimes they depend on the region, right? I I travel about an hour and a half from where I live to the city where I work, from Trondheim to Selbu. Yes, it does take an hour and a half because I have to take the bus and the train. So I hear a different accent and a different dialect. And yesterday we were discussing that, so you should know the difference. So we talked about the Indian accent and how some people don't see the importance of that culturally, and some people just look down on someone who has that accent when in fact it is just a part of their culture. Well, well, well. You've been very good this year so far. If you can see the pages flashing behind me, the joys of being a transatlantic couple with a baby, this has nothing to do with someone being born a boy and becoming something else later in life or vice versa. Has nothing to do with that. Transatlantic. I actually want you to read the text, pages 32, 33, and then after you finish reading the pages, I want you to do two very important things. The first thing, this is a conversation between an American and a British person. When I say British person, it can be a variety of things. Last year, in the book Citizens SF, we discussed what is a British person. We discussed what a British person is. So we even asked different people if they were considered British. On my channel later on, when you have a chance, if you want to review these aspects of what a British person is, I have interviewed Miss England, Shannon Jones, who is now the reigning Miss Regal World. Her variety of English is British, and she talked about the different accents and how she sounds, and you can listen to that later on if you want to refresh your memory. I also interviewed a gentleman from Scotland. You can listen to how he talks, and you can also see the difference in the cadence of his speech, his accent, and you can also detect perhaps a dialect. And I have interviewed plenty of Americans that you have watched during class. And I know that you say to me, hey, I can just go on YouTube and watch this and that person. Yeah, I believe you can. I'm not taking away from TikToks and different places where you can find other people talking. But will they be talking about the topics from the books that we're studying and the relevant topics for your education in EFL, right? So that's why I interview these people. So the first thing you're going to do when you read this text, you're going to make a list. You're going to make a list on one side of the paper or on one side of, you can do it on your computer, you don't have to do it on paper. You will write all the words that are used in British English and their equivalents in American English. This couple is having a conversation where they use different words to talk about the same thing. And it is very clear that a lot of you already know the differences, right? But it's always good to learn new words that are said differently in the two varieties of English, American and British. So I'd like you to make that list. That's one thing you're going to do. And then on page 34, you're going to do understand A and B, all in written form. I would like you to use the rest of your time. After we finish, we're going to do a Quizlet live, so I hope your phones are charged. I hope you do use your time wisely. You will have about 45 minutes to write, to do the list, to read the text, make the list, and to understand page 34, number 1A and B. So there is number 1, understand, and there are 2 items for you to work on, A and B. So I want you to do it in writing. As a matter of fact, B is kind of similar to what I asked you to do with the list. So that gives you even fewer things to do because you already will make a list of the British and American words. And that's going to be it. I will be available on Teams from, I'm very bad at mathematics, but I think, let's just say, so we started at 10:30. We went from 10:30 to 11:15 with this here. Then you take a break of 5 minutes. So at 11:20, I will be on Teams. I'm probably not going to be sitting in the living room. I'm going to be sitting in a different part of the house. or I might be sitting at the library, who knows? But I will be sitting readily available if you have questions. And if you finish doing the writing part of this session and you want to discuss your project, I'll be available for that as well. Discuss what you've been doing with your project. I've seen some of you have showed me the list that you created of what you're going to approach in your character for the debate. Very excited to see how that comes along. It's in November, so it feels like it's a long time until that happens, but don't leave it for the last minute. Don't procrastinate too much. Well, well, well. So we've come to an end. We're now going to do the last part of this YouTube class, which is the Quizlet Live. And I know I hear teachers from all schools around saying that they use Quizlet Live and they use Quizlet. And some people saying, oh no, my students hate Quizlet. I think what people hate is when they have to work on Quizlet, when they are told to do a test on Quizlet, when they are told to go through all of the items on the flashcards and study, because it feels like a task that they're doing. But I feel like people like playing the different games. A lot of teachers aren't aware that Quizlet Live is not the only game. You have, I think, a new game, Blast. You have the match game that's really fun to do. It's like a memory game. But what we're going to do is Quizlet Live, the the usual one that we play. The game you're going to be seeing on the screen is not the same game that you'll be seeing on your phones because I'm doing a sample game for the screen and you will be playing a different game. Like I said before, because this is on delay, you may have already started, right? Who knows? But I'm just putting on the details. Everything will be on Teams, everything that you need. I'm going to make sure that you can connect with me on Teams after this. Not everyone needs to talk to me while they do their written exercises, but some people do need help, and also I'm happy to discuss your projects with you. Bye, everyone. I'll see you guys later.